Back to work here on Midpoint with former New York City Police Detective Investigator, internationally recognized as an expert in security, crisis management, and investigative techniques. Let's welcome Thomas Ruskin back to Midpoint. Thomas, just before we left, I wanted to ask you on this because, again, that point that I brought up from Karen Greenberger, the Center of National Security on National Security at Fordham Law School, talking about the tone of teenage rebellion in what is now this joining ISIS. That doesn't smack to me as being very realistic. Teenage rebellion, there's got to be more to it than just that. It can't be that simplistic.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think Karen's point is not, well based. We're seeing the people that we're arresting and the people that have been arrested and prosecuted in the States and elsewhere are not teenage rebellions, as you alluded to. Maybe you stay out late for your curfew, you don't go into Grand Central Station and try and detonate yourself because you're pissed at your parents. So, there's more behind this than just being a teenage rebellion. But, our cases that are developing are more disturbing because they are becoming more homegrown Americans or people who are in our country legally who are looking to hurt Americans. And you think that they become more socialized over their time in the States.
When we look at where this begins, and I know that we have talked about social media, but a recent article from the Wall Street Journal caught our attention, and it specifically looked at the prison population in America. It pointed out that in 2003, so we're going back now a number of years, it was estimated that 17 to 20% of the U.S. prison population, that at that time was 350,000 inmates, were Muslims, and that 80% of the prisoners who convert while in prison convert to Islam. Is this a breeding ground that we are missing and that we really have no control over?
Well, there's been no recent cases that I know of in the last 12 years since the numbers were released to indicate that anyone who's coming out of prison has become more radicalized. They may be converting to a different religion, but that doesn't mean that they're going to become radicalized. We know that in our country, there are millions of people who practice different religions, and we understand that just because you're of a religion doesn't mean you're a radical. What is disturbing to me is Ray Kelly, the former police commissioner in New York City, had a program where he sent detectives and undercovers into mosques and other areas to determine if any chatter could be determined from that mosque. Not to determine that the mosque was bad, but just to see if a mosque in New Jersey could be potentially planning something, or people in the mosque could be planning something against the city of New York or any other metropolitan area. He was widely criticized for that policy, and I think that he was wrongly criticized for that policy.
We have two women who were recently arrested in a terror plot in Queens. The police went to a mosque in Jamaica where they both had worshiped for the past 5 years. The imam there says, absolutely, it is false. Nothing here could be further from the truth. We did not help this. However, they've got evidence. So as painful as it is for us to say sometimes, Thomas, do we need to indicate that if we're going to be completely investigative and do everything we can, that mosques, unfortunately, are a point of interest for law enforcement to find these homegrowns?
I will go further. Not only would a mosque be a point, but if you found out that a temple or a church was potentially a breeding ground for some kind of criminal activity, you would send people in there. So wherever a lead takes you, I believe as a former detective, that's where you go. And it doesn't matter what it is or what kind of institution it is, you go where the leads take you. And if you understand that some people practiced in a certain mosque, then yes, you're going to go to speak to the people in that mosque as you are going to speak to their neighbors and other people. And you're not singling a religion or a bunch of people out. You're taking it where the leads lead you.
I only got about a minute left. How does police and law enforcement then fight the absolute response that will come from that and say, you're nothing but a bigot and you're basing it all only on religion?
I'm not a bigot when I'm following two people from a certain area to that area. And as I said before, it doesn't matter where that area is. It doesn't matter if it's a neighborhood, a religious institution, or a school that they're going to. you would follow the leads where they take you, and that doesn't make you a bigot. That makes you a good investigator and potentially saving future lives.
I know I've only got 20 seconds left, but you're over in Paris right now. I guess they're still trying to recover from their problems as well.
They're very concerned here, as well as the rest of Europe. After Charlie Haddad happened in January, there is a heightened sense of awareness, but there should be that sense of awareness everywhere in the world nowadays.
I think that's probably the best way to end this. Thomas Ruskin, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Travel safe. I'll look forward to speaking to you again.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. Does tolerance for one